Here's Mike Tomlin on Christian McCaffrey and how difficult he is to play against.
Starting on the offensive side of the ball, man, I think it just starts with Christian McCaffrey, man. We just got to respect the dynamic playmaking ability that he has both in the running game and in the passing game. It's very evident how significant his addition has been for them. I think prior to his addition, they were averaging 20 points a game. With him in 2022, they averaged 30 points a game, and so 10 points with the addition of one man. He's dynamic in the run game. He's dynamic in the passing game. We better be really careful about being matched up against him in space. He's a one-on-one space winner. They have a lot of one-on-one space winners, man. He might be the most dynamic one-on-one space winner at running back in the NFL. Kittles might be that at tight end. Deebo Samuels might be that at receiver. Their run-after ability with their offensive eligibles is really impressive.
Really impressive. Really impressive. I love how he says George Kittles. Love how he says Deebo Samuels. Love just everything about Mike Tomlin.
It does feel like Debo's flying under the radar this year.
He is.
With everybody thinking about Brandon Ayuk and his contract status moving forward, and CMC obviously being such a focal point of every team that they're going to face. It does feel like Debo is totally flying under the radar, because a year ago, it was like Debo's got to replicate his 2,000-yard season, you know? And you don't really hear a whole lot about Debo this year. Not that we've forgotten about him, or it just feels like he's flying under the radar.
Well, I think a lot of Niner fans or people who are at camp, and our first look at him in camp, I said, oh, he looks like he's ready to roll. And you see him in that first preseason game with Brock Purdy and that second game against the Denver Broncos, that first drive, and I said, oh, Debo's ready to roll. Deebo Samuel is ready to roll, so I'm not worried about him. He actually joined Kay Adams for an interview, and he was talking about Brock Purdy's guts, how he has guts. So that's why you love Brock Purdy. But the latest with Nick Bosa. Albert Breer, Sports Illustrated, answered their fan question. He believes that the smart people will get this done Friday or Saturday. Nick Bosa will sign Friday or Saturday. We thought it was last week.
Not to get negative, but let's say he doesn't sign. He doesn't play in the game on Sunday. Who looks worse, Nick or the Niners? Will it depend on if we win?
It's going to be Nick, and I'll tell you why. It's going to be Nick.
You look selfish?
Oh, yeah. So remember the day we were arguing last week about Bosa? And you were like, if you can't give away $1 to $2 million off the top, and I'm like, man, go get your money, man. This is the NFL, blah, blah, blah. So I went to barbershop. It was last Tuesday. I forget the guy's name. Sorry about that, but he listens to the roast all the time. He popped into the barbershop, and he goes, Bonte, what's up, man? Listen all the time. By the way, why does Bosa have to be greedy? Come on, man. We work hard in the real world, man. He's a millionaire, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, dude, these athletes live in a different world. They don't live in the real world that we live in. Mm-hmm. We're bumping shoulders with each other, guys who are trying to live check to check, guys who are trying to make ends meet. Bosa's and the millionaires are rubbing shoulders with other millionaires. So it matters. Remember Bomani Jones said, when he was like, when I go to a spot and I know there's some big boys in there, I make sure to bring my wallet to let them know that I'm also a big boy. That's how those millionaires and billionaires think. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's like they got to get every single dime. And so I think just off of that guy popping in the barbershop, I think most fans think like him, where they're just like, you're greedy. So if he gets off to a slow start and he doesn't produce the same way he did as last year, fans will point straight to Bosa saying, you greedy SOB, and you didn't even live up to your performance, especially based off that last postseason in which he didn't register a sack. So I think all the heat's going to be on Bosa.
All of it, yeah. I think it'll go in both directions, but you make a great point, because this is why I've listened to a lot of people talk about he wants to get more money than Joey. Me as a Niner fan, I don't give a damn how many millions this guy wants over the next guy, and I find talking about is it 108? Is it 111? Is it 125 million? To me, it's all monopoly money.
Right.
I'm so numb by all the numbers. It feels ridiculous for us arguing about it should be 125. No, he should only get 82 million. It's ridiculous. It's so unfathomable.
Especially in the NFL where these owners don't care. They'll cut you in a heartbeat.
Dude, they're getting $300 million checks from TV deals this year.
And they'll restructure you in a heartbeat.
It covers all their salaries.
Exactly.
Right? So, but I will say that I think that when people tune in on Sunday, if he's not on the sidelines, then I think it's going to hit people. I think it will hit people. And I think both people are going to get – I think the Niners are going to get heat. I think Bosa's going to get heat. If they lose, I think the Niners are going to get more heat. If they win, I think Bosa's going to get more heat. And I think that's just how a lot of fans are wired.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Remember when Alex Boone held out?
Yeah, and fans were not
I feel
happy.
like a lot of people couldn't look at him the same.
No, they didn't. And he didn't have a great year. The Crocky rent-due analogy was awesome. Rent's due right now with Bosa. Worry about the rest later. And that's why, I sent that tweet out yesterday saying, just sign Bosa and worry. Everybody's so focused on what's going to happen in 2024. Can I get through 2023?
Well,
we do the same thing in NBA, right? Oh, this guy's going to be a free agent. Where's he going to play? Well, we're in December right now. How about who's going to win the championship? Who's going to have home court advantage? In this case, where the Niners going to be at in a month? I don't care about 2024 and what's going to happen with George Kittle and Juszczyk next year. We'll get there at some point, but can we live in the now for a second? And right now, the rent is due, as Crocky said.
I'm glad that you're saying live in the now, because I'm looking at Hargrave specifically. Two things. First, if Hargrave's contract ends up costing you players that you really care about that are homegrown, I think it's going to be really hard for Hargraves to live up to the money. And secondarily, like, if he has a down year, we are going to look at that money and be like, you gave this guy all the money and you nickel and dime Nick Bosa when he's been not that that's accurate. I'm just saying that's how people
player.
I think Hargraves, we have not talked enough about it, and it's not mind-blowing money, $35 million guaranteed. But it's enough to make the Niners have tough decisions moving forward. I think he's a more important person to look out for in terms of production, because I can see these fans like, we got you from the Eagles to come here and be a game changer. You better be good.
No doubt.
You better be good. It's one thing to miss on a draft pick who's 23, 24 years old, and those don't help. I mean,
no, they don't.
We hold Javon Kinlaw against the Niners dramatically. It's another to go in free agency, and you stink.
No doubt. And you take them from Philadelphia, a team we cannot stand right now.
Exactly.
And Philadelphia fans are saying, they're watching Hargrave to see, oh, wait, we got Jalen Carter. Forget Hargraves. You guys got our seconds. You guys got our scraps.
Well, and it's his third contract.
Right.
And you know me on those third contracts, like quarterback third contracts, okay. Even wide receivers stay pretty good on that third contract. Defensive linemen?
But you know what? I think the hunger is there, though, coming out that Super Bowl loss against Kansas City. I do think the hunger for Hargrave, from just talking to him in that interview we had with him.
I'm not doubting that.
I don't think he's, it's not going to be a Gabe Wilkins situation. Remember Gabe Wilkins back in the late 90s from the Green Bay Packers?
Oh, yeah.
That was a waste. I mean, that guy was an absolute stiff for the 49ers. And they paid him big money at the time. I think he was like the highest paid defensive lineman at the time. I mean, this was only like $20 million. But
there are still Niner fans to this day. If you say Nate Clements, they lose their minds.
Right. Yep.
They sure lose their minds.
By the way,
Jonas Jennings.
Chris Jones, by the way, is I guess he's got a partnership with McDonald's. Chris Jones said, I can't really talk about the negotiations with the Chiefs. Hopefully, we can get something worked out. He said he doesn't want to be a distraction by holding in. Chris Jones added, I can play right now. I'm guessing Bosa probably is saying the same thing. I can play right now. I can play right now. But now, the one thing, everybody keeps bringing up soft tissue injuries and stuff like that. Now, he goes out there and goes full go against Pittsburgh. That is dangerous, man. He's an explosive player. Explosive.
I
and
love
he's had soft
Tomlin,
tissue injuries.
I loved the Tomlin analogy of, they're like, well, why do you play your guys in the preseason? He's like, well, a boxer has to spar to get ready for a boxing fight. And I thought that was a great analogy. I don't know if it's a catch-all where it applies to everyone, because obviously the Rams didn't play anyone a couple of years ago. They ended up winning it all, whatever. But I do believe you got to work yourself into, game shape to some degree. Maybe Bosa's a freak and he's an outlier and it won't matter to him.
Yep.
Maybe. But it feels more rare. I don't think every player in the league could do that.
Here's former Raiders president. You can see her on CBS Sports. Amy Trask. We all love Amy Trask. Hi, Amy. She always ends her tweets with hi. But she joined Willard and Dibbs yesterday, and she was saying that the 49ers may be worried about setting a precedent with the Bosa deal.
Are they worried about setting a precedent, either within their own organization, or are they worried for, that kind of pushback you get from other teams? I remember at one point, Al did a very, very, very large contract because he believed it was the right thing to do. And he got a lot of grief from a lot of, let me say, it wasn't antitrust grief. It wasn't collusion grief. It was just a lot of side eye from a lot of other owners.
There you go. But Amy also, she added that she likes how the Niners have handled this entire situation.
I loved their approach initially. I loved when they came out and said, we're not going to fine him. And I don't know if they said it or it was just reported that they said it. I don't remember how that news broke. But I loved it. I thought it sent the right message to the player and the right message to his representatives. Query whether something then occurred during the negotiation that may have them rethinking this or may have them regretting this. I don't know that that's the case. But I love the approach they took, which is, look, we've got to find a way to work this out, and penalizing you is not going to be the right way to do that.
Very interesting from Amy Trash. She also added a couple other things, and she said her spider sensors are telling her this.
My hunch is starting to wane a bit, but the minute this all started, I just simply thought they're going to find a way to get this done. You've got a guy like Nick Bosa on your team. He is just, the quintessential disruptor. You're a different team with him on the field. I'll go back to what we just talked about, which is the team, not looking to fine him, not looking to penalize him. It just struck me that the team wants to find a way to get this done, and I hope that's still the case. I don't know if something disrupted these negotiations, if something, took a bad turn, but I think part of the reason I'm predicting this, and it's more like, let's call it a spidey sense. How do you go into a season wanting to win it all, which the 49ers believe they're capable of doing? They believe they've got a window to do that, and not have this guy on the team on the field.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. And I know there's more players on the team than Nick Bosa that make an elite defense. They were the number one defense in terms of scoring efficiency last year, of holding opponents down. Number 2 in overall yards, 6 in yards per play, number 1 in stopping the run in yards per run, 11th in pressures, 10th in sack, 8th worst in hurry. So that means outside of Bosa, who led every category in terms of pass rushing or at the top of it, nobody else really got to the quarterback but him. Now, they had 44 sacks. He had, 20 of them?
Yep.
More than half of them?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The last time he missed significant time, they were down to 30 sacks in 2020, and then 2018 they had 37 sacks. If you go under 40 in terms of sacks, you're not really one of the upper echelon defenses. There's a correlation toward winning games, holding opponents down, getting sacks. It's not the end-all, be-all, but it's a good barometer. And then the scoring efficiency is if you're near 40%, giving up, 38, 39, 40%, you're usually middle to bottom of the league. Mm-hmm. They're in the 25-28 category when Bosa plays in terms of holding opponents from scoring. And that's why this guy's so important. He commands a double team. He gets pressures. He beats double teams. He makes it easier for your linebackers to run in space. And he makes it shorter for the cornerbacks to cover these elite wide receivers who want to get open.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Now, here's some good data here. Good data. And Tomlin spoke about this in his presser yesterday. 2 years ago, Steelers' T.J. Watt signed on a Wednesday before Week 1. He played 69 of 85 defensive snaps.
Wow.
Registered 2 sacks.
Wow.
Registered 2 sacks and 5 quarterback hits. As Tomlin said in his presser, T.J. Watt was T.J. Watt. So if Nick Bosa signs today, tomorrow, and he plays on Sunday, I expect Nick Bosa to be Nick Bosa.
Did he play that whole year?
I'm not sure if he got hurt later on in the year. Not sure.
Not that it was because of Week 1 usage, but I'm just, I'd be curious.
To come in, no training camp that Wednesday,
play
81% of the snaps, and then dominate a football game.
That's pretty impressive. But then, what were you like Week 5?
Right.
Week 7, Week 8? To me, those things matter.
So that was 2 years ago. He played 15 games.
Wow.
Played 15 games.
Was that the year he had 23 sacks or whatever? 22 sacks?
No, he had 15.
Only 15?
Maybe that was the year. No. Maybe that was a year he had 22 and a half. 2 years ago, we had 15 and then 22 and a half. Defensive player of the year.
I mean, come on.
How did Charlie Cat what defensive player of the year?
That's pretty incredible.
Gosh.
That's a Roger Clemens-like move.
They're saying Watt was in camp, though. Maybe he held out.
Oh, hold in?
Hold in.
Well, that's the way Debo was last year, where he was there physically in Niner gear on the sideline, but didn't have a contract.
Does that make a difference if you're – you can't
I don't know.
technically –
I don't know.
Could you study with the team? Could you be in the meeting room? Could you stay with the team? How does that play out?
Well, you're in front of trainers that are your team-wide trainers.
We have somebody – who do we have from Pittsburgh coming on tomorrow, Lutman? Who's the guest we have coming on? We could ask him that tomorrow.
We have Craig Wolfe coming on tomorrow. He's an offensive lineman for the Steelers back in the 80s and currently does color for the Steelers Radio Network.
There you go. So